May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio Podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, preserving the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki, helping to preserve, doing our part to preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today there's a Happy New Year podcast. I do have guest podcasts ready to go up. I'm pretty far ahead of myself. But I just didn't want to do it on New Year's Day. And I didn't want to do it on Christmas Day. So I read Meister Eckhart quotes last week. And this week, I don't really have any particular plan. Well, I've got an idea. Let me read you something from Shunryu Suzuki on New Year's. All right? Okay, I found something here. I just opened up Crooked Cucumber. Because, I could go through his lectures, but this is, nicely presented here. This is, incidentally, if you hear the firecrackers and the fireworks in the background, that's because, well, it's the evening of New Year's Day here in Bali, but, any chance to set off fireworks, and they can set them off anytime they want, and they do. But there's more this evening, because it's fun. They go boom and pop. Okay. But there's also thunder, so we'll see if it starts raining. It's been a rainy season, and we've had a lot of rain. In fact, we had a lot of rain all year last year. It rained. It rained a lot. And then sometimes it stops, there won't be any rain for a week or something, but that's it, it'll be dry now. And then, God, I want to tell you, the last couple of weeks or something, it has rained so much. I like it. I like the sort of cozy feeling, and I like to go out, especially if it gets really hard, go out and watch it and sit in and work and have some hot tea. I always like it. In fact, I have thought there's a couple of places in the world, at least in, climates change recently, rather drastically. But I remember on some documentary, maybe 20 years ago or something, 15 years ago, talking about the rainiest places on Earth, and there were two of them. There was one on top of a mountain in Hawaii. It just rained all the time, quite a bit, and it had some gigantic, enormous amount of rainfall every year. I don't remember what. But there was another place, and there weren't people living at that spot. There was another place in India where people lived, naturally, and they had all these, they showed us like a shopping street, and it was just raining, and everything was covered in like plastic tarps and stuff, Then the rain stopped, and bang, everything opens up, tarps come, go back, and people start shopping, and everything's mulling about. Bang! It starts raining again. It all goes down. It was something. It reminds me. It was very similar to the feeling of there's. You can find it on YouTube. I don't know what you'd search for. It'd be pretty. I found it just by writing keywords. A shopping area in India on either side of a railroad track, and so they have their sort of awnings of each one down. It would be just some reed awning or whatever. and just little put together shacks, and everybody's shopping and this and that. And then you see it all come, like the awnings either flap down or go up, and all the people pull back, and zoom, a train goes through, and it's really close to the sides. And when the train finishes going through, bang, people are out there again shopping. It's so great. India is such a trip. I love India. But it's a lot of work. It's an ordeal. I just don't think I can go back there. In fact, I don't really want to go back anywhere. I would actually. There was one place I'd like to go to, Rajasthan, and get drink and see Rajasthan. There's a really interesting friend there. I did a podcast with him, David Kubiak. I don't know, a couple of years ago. Oh, there goes a plane. I'm not gonna stop for it. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to say before I read this Suzuki thing on New Year's? Well, last year was a good year. Got a lot done. The audiobook for Thank You and Okay. Oh, wow. And also I put up another audiobook, but I didn't say anything about it. It's one I made back in 2009. I wrote a little novel in maybe 2005. Wrote it real quick in 1 month. To Find the Girl from Perth. And then I rewrote it every month. It was part of the NaNoWriMo novel writing contest. Maybe I've mentioned it here. I don't know what I've mentioned. Anyway, I illustrated it and did 28 songs and made a CD. It was a whole big trip. I just did it in between doing stuff, working on the Shunryu Suzuki archive and lectures and putting up interviews with people and stuff, just to have a little break. And so I did an audiobook, and I put it on CDs, DVDs, but data. I got the DVD discs, but I put the data on them. They weren't. You didn't put them into a DVD player. They were to, play and listen to maybe you could put them in a DVD player and listen to it. Yeah. Or a CD player, maybe. I can't remember. That's been a long time ago since I used those things. So I did the whole thing. There were 13 discs. I got a little thing for it, and I made some. But then, naturally I didn't promote it or anything. I just did it and gave some away and stuff. But anyway, after I did the audiobook for Crooked Cucumber back in 2021, and then I listened to some of it, and I was shocked to hear how good it was. My voice was, it was the audiobook was made in 2009, I think. My voice was really, it's a while back. It was a better voice. And also, I made many fewer mistakes recording. I remember I didn't even go over it. If I made a mistake, I just went beep real loud and make a jump in the WAV file. And so I just went to those jumps and corrected whatever was wrong. Never even went over it. And so I was, I just assumed after all the time and, getting, really good equipment and studying how to make audiobooks and everything, I assumed it just would be trash and I'd have to redo it. No, not at all. It was, in some ways, it was better. In a number of ways, it was better. But it had a lot of S-ing, and that's when you say, like, the S's come through. It was a cheaper mic. It wasn't a terrible mic, but anyway, I did that, and I did a CD of the songs to Find the Girl from Birth. Songs for To Find the Girl from Birth. And so I decided to put we went over the audiobook with my engineer here because I do music here, and remastered it, and I went over it all. I was just shocked how little there was to fix. I didn't have to re-record it, and maybe one or two words or something, or where you couldn't hear, like a syllable here or something. Maybe I did a little bit of that. I can't remember, but almost nothing or nothing, and very little clicking and popping, which is more of a problem for me now. But I have pretty good mics now. And anyway, so, but the CD was very flawed, how I made it. I've done music, with good people and good engineers and stuff. And I did that whole thing myself in the barn. And just, I had people help me, but it was very flawed. So I went over it with my engineer here, and we remixed it. Some of them we didn't remix. One of the main reasons, I think in those cases there were corrupted tracks, and we couldn't remix them. But they're fine. Those were okay. They didn't bother me. And some of them we took some of the tracks out, like if the drums really didn't work with it. And so we simplified it, we remixed it, he remastered it, and it went back up. It was called Songs for to Find the Girl from Perth, and now it's called Homemade Songs for to Find the Girl from Perth Redux. So, and it's better. It's better. So I'd say it went from very flawed to just moderately flawed. So anyway, that was neat. All right, and since I'm talking about music, I'll mention this. From July 2021 to July 2022, I worked on music with local musicians, really good ones, and recorded, we'd practice here at our home once or twice a week, and recorded at a studio, the first album at a studio. And then after that, we just did the drums in a good studio, a very good studio. We just did the drums there after that, and then did the other tracks in my engineer's home, in a little tiny studio. And that worked out. And we ended up doing 31 songs, which were in 5 albums. The first 4 with 6 songs, and the last one with 7. And they're all, if you go to ballyuga.com, and you can see the musicians. But if you hit artist pages right there, when on ballyuga.com goes to my music site, diffusermusic.com. Right, and then there's a link to the Bali Yuga section, which that's what we call every album we made here. I put Bali Yuga at the first of it, so when it goes on like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music or something, that group of songs, they're distinctive. They're, because I've done a lot of different types of stuff. So there's Bali Yuga on the Way to Venus, Bali Yuga, Okay, Boomerang, Bali Yuga Bad Intentions, and Bali Yuga Zero. And they've all come out. And then in February, the last one will be on. I just, I wanted to pace them a little. It's Bali Yuga, The Painting on the Wall. For a painting, that's a song I wrote a long time ago, 78, for a painting that Mike Dixon did. And you're going to listen to Mike's podcast. And our search for him on Kook.com. See that. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was extremely cheap to do here in Bali. But still, I couldn't afford to do more. And I had to focus on trying to get work done. And, I've mentioned it before, stuff I want to get done. There's a lot I want to get done this year. And I want to get back to editing Shunryu Suzuki audio. His lectures. I love doing that. And, it's just, I don't know, there's just always so much coming up. I mean, just the emails I get, and, responding to them and and just keeping things in order here. Like my computer, my laptop, it sort of came apart. I couldn't even close it. I have two of them. I have a Mac and a PC, and I use the PC a lot more. And for one thing, the Audacity that I record with and make the podcast with, it's a lot easier for me to use on a PC than a Mac because of just certain ways you do things there. For some reason, they don't have them on Mac. One thing mainly. But so my tech guy who came, picked it up, and he fixed it. And he said, he said, you got some problems. You need to upgrade your operating system. And it's the same operating system. Maybe just needed to reload it. But anyway, and he upgraded some things on it and did a bunch of stuff, and he sent it back. And all my extra programs weren't there anymore. Usually he makes a mirror image and puts that back on. I think he forgot to do it. And I lost the old antiquated program, the expressions that I was doing the web pages with. And I can't get it back. It's too old, can't upgrade it. And so I've got this Dreamweaver. And I've got to learn it. I've got to learn how to use it. So right now, I can't do any work there. Now, Peter Ford, God bless him, he was taking care of it anyway. He's managing Cuke.com and ShunyuSuzuki.com. And I just, answer questions and I add things and do things. But what I say is I'm on special projects. So it's still happening. But that's very frustrating. I mean, there's things I want to work on, and I really need to study this Dreamweaver. I can't do anything on it. God, there's always stuff like that coming up. Hey, I don't mind. I love it. It's great to know what you want to do in the day. And I don't do too much. I don't work all the time. I walked with Katrinka today. I walked her she went to one of her meetings. One of those where people are anonymous, so I can't mention it. So I don't go to meetings. So we walked 2,500 steps. I know I can look at my iPhone to this place that's sort of new. It was really nice. All I did was have 2 cups of tea for 2 hours and then walk back. But I would like to say one thing. At dinner, she congratulated me. She said, happy birthday. And that's what they say in AA when it's been one of your year markers for not having drunk. And today is my 18th birthday. Actually, my last drink was at 11:30 p.m. on December 31st, 2004. So I guess yesterday was my 18th birthday, but it doesn't matter. And she's dealing with somebody now who's relapsed. And it's their 3rd relapse. And almost everybody we know in the program hasn't relapsed, We had one friend die from relapsing. He got into pills. He was young, like 39. He was my best friend. And my favorite tennis partner. That was bad. Sad. Anyway, everybody else, they don't. They just stay off it. And I just want to say one thing about that. If you read the AA definition of what an alcoholic is, I don't think either Katrinka or I are that. We were just, it got really heavy into the habit. But what they call an alcoholic is someone who's always wants alcohol and always has to guard against going back. Now, I guess that's true somewhat with it. You always have to guard. But, that, I've heard AA speakers say you're always tortured by it. You always want it. And you have to. I do. From the time I quit, that's it. I've never wanted to drink. Same with tobacco. I quit 18 and a half years ago. And I wasn't a heavy smoker then anymore. I was just bumming and stuff. But I decided, quit. I don't think about it. And it's very interesting. Anyway, I've talked about that before. So, anyway, that's what's happening. Go to ballyuga.com if you care to and listen to some of the songs we've done here. There's rock and roll. There's jazz. There's some stuff that's a little bit country-like. More and more as I did it, I really got into having the Boney, the keyboard player, doing songs with him and the bass player, and sometimes having this adding other things. But I really got into Boney. He's an eccentric guy. He put out the first jazz album from Bali, 12 years ago or something, or 20 years ago. I don't know how long. He's from Java. He's Catholic. He's a character. Anyway, but that was enough of that. It was a nice break, but I got to move on and do other things. And the way I relate, the way I experience things I've done, is that they become nothing. It's like, it was neat. And I can go back and listen to something I did, some song I did, earlier. I haven't heard anything in a long time. And I go, wow, far out, where'd that come from? But mainly, it's nothing. In fact, everything sort of seems to me like nothing. It's like sort of disappears. It seemed like there was something there, but it's not there now. And I think it just seems like there's things here now. The lead song on the last album we put out is called Zero, and it deals with that. And if I did another album in the coming year, which would be fun, just one, and it's not too expensive to do just one, I'd want to do a song I wrote back about 1980 or something called Nothing Travels from Minute to Minute. I love that. I like the song. I like the idea. So anyway, pardon me for going on and on about that. And, I don't promote any of this stuff, so nobody ever hears it. It's sort of like I archive it, like I do the Buddhist stuff. I'm really just so uninterested in promoting. Everything is so into promoting. I think, well, if this stuff has any value, maybe somebody will bump into it. But there's a phrase for that, for stuff that doesn't really catch. It's called digital dust. So maybe all this will be digital dust. The podcasts and the Buddhist stuff, there's plenty of people that hear it. But the music is pretty much digital dust. But, we'll see what happens. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As the song Zero says, zero's where we started and zero's where we're off. So, all right, I'm going to read you now. Thank you for bearing with me for that. I'm going to read you now from Crooked Cucumber. It's a chapter on his childhood. It's probably the first chapter. Childhood, yeah. And he was called Toshi. That's Toshitaki or something like that. Those are other, Shunryu is his Buddhist name, but it's also his given name, Shunryu Suzuki. Incidentally, I really think we should call him Shunryu rather than Suzuki. And I think we should just call him Shunryu. not Shunryu Roshi. There's too much use of that word Roshi. We don't say Dogen Roshi every time we mention it. And Shunryu's like Dogen. It's his Zen name. It's also his given name. And we don't use Dogen's family name, whatever it was. He did have a family name like Watanabe or something. I don't know what it was. We call him Dogen. And Shunryu, that's a rare name. Suzuki, you know what that is? That's Johnson in America. Second most popular name in Japan. And there's probably a higher percentage of Suzukis than there in Japan. There are Johnsons in America, though. I'm just guessing at that. So everybody loves to say Suzuki Roshi. And so I wonder how many Suzuki Roshis there have been and who there are. You know, I mean, like in Soto Zen, you use Roshi after somebody's, been a priest for a while. But they use it inside. The people on the outside don't say it. At Rinso-In, they call him, when they talked about him, when I talked to people who revered him, they called him Suzuki-san. Not even sensei, which is like a teacher. It's Suzuki-san. I'm much more comfortable with that. But when I get into talking to people in the Zen world, everybody's Roshi this, Roshi that. It's all too precious for me. But anyway, it's a minor matter. And I do use Suzuki Roshi quite a bit because I don't want to be rude or offend people. Well, actually, I don't mind that too much, but, sometimes, mainly I don't want to. All right, here we go. Reading what he had to say about New Year's, at least in this point of Crooked Cucumber. Toshi grew up in an atmosphere rich in ceremony, custom, and lore that defined the rules of life. Buddhist temples, Shinto shrines, schools, and families preserved and passed on stabilizing rituals that punctuated the year. Shoganji was alive with activity. Shoganji's the little temple where he was born. Was alive with activity during the week of the Obon ceremony in late summer, when the spirits of the departed are said to return to earth. New Year was a special delight to Shunryu. He spoke of it with great fondness in his later years. And this is a quote. I don't know if this is a quote. It's not set aside. But maybe that didn't happen. All right, don't worry. You'll figure it out. On New Year's Eve, temple members and neighbors would come to strike the large bell. No, it's not a quote. Pardon me. I think I changed that in the second edition. I'm reading first edition because it makes you think he spoke of it with great fondness in his later years. It makes you think the following thing's a quote. I dealt with that in the second edition. And I should have opened it up, but I just assumed there'd be nothing there that changed. Anyway, on New Year's Eve, temple members, incidentally, the only place you can get the second edition is the audiobook. You can see what in it is changed on cuke.com/CC21. Crooked Cucumber 21, and it lists all the changes, many. A lot of them are minor, very minor. But it doesn't list punctuation changes. Some stories are retold because I learned things that I didn't know beforehand. All right, so anyway, on New Year's Eve, temple members and neighbors would come to strike the large bell. Sogaku would greet them, reciting with a robust voice a poem he had written for the occasion in classical Chinese style. Sogaku's Shunryu's father. And they'd make glutinous rice mochi. Children and parents took their turns with mallets, pounding the mochi in a hollowed tree stump till late at night. The next day, the children put mochi rice balls on tree branches, and at the main altar, Sogaku and Yoni offered mochi balls stacked in pyramids on red and black lacquer trays. Inside, the oil lamps and a wood fire in the kitchen made the air tastes smoky. The children helped in the rite of renewal by collecting old decorations, small shrines, offerings, paper lanterns, and unneeded temple records. With their parents, they took these old things to the neighborhood Shinto shrine on January 1st. There everything was piled high and mixed with what others had brought from their homes. Then on the night of the 14th, they went to the shrine for a bonfire, burning last year's memories away and baking rice balls near the flames. At midnight, Yoni enriched the celebrations by telling the children folk tales and Buddhist legends from Japan, China, and India. As the time of the New Year's bonfire approached, she'd have their wide-eyed attention as she told of the deity who came to check up on everyone. He looked over the records of the past year, intending to turn his wrath on those who had broken the rules. But he could find no proof of any wrongdoing. The old had been burned away, and the people couldn't be punished for what they'd done. "Oh, I'm sorry," Yoni would say to the wrathful deity. "We burned it all, so you can't check up on us. We'll try to be good this year. We'll be very careful. Come back next year." Snuggled up in the evening, I was saying, does this have to do with New Year's? It doesn't, but I'm going to read one more thing. Snuggled up in the evening with his brother and sisters, Toshi often asked his mother to repeat a story about a famous mythical Japanese warrior, a story he would pass on to his students, his Dharma children, 60 years later. Here's a quote. Hey, we never did find a quote back there where Suzuki talks about that. I wonder what I did in the second edition to deal with that. I think in this one, I paraphrased it. And what I did for the second edition is I made clear that I was paraphrasing what he said, or something like that. It doesn't matter. You get the idea. So here we are. Here, Suzuki told us what his mother would tell us. Now, this is a quote. "People may say that the Japanese are very tough, but that is just one side of the Japanese personality. The other side is softness. Because of their Buddhist background, they have been trained that way for a long time. The Japanese people are very kind. My mother used to sing a song that described a hero called Momotaro, the Peach Boy. An old couple lived near the riverside. One day the old woman picked up a peach from the stream, and out of the peach came Momotaro. He was very strong, but kind and gentle, the ideal Japanese folk hero. Without a soft mind, you cannot be really strong." All right. Hey, I'm going to search. I got the whole book in this file. I'm going to search for New Year again. Yep, I found more New Year's. So this is the beginning of a section of Crooked Cucumber. I don't know what chapter. Oh, no, I think this is the chapter on the war. Wow. Maybe this is the chapter after the war. Yeah. Called The Occupation? Maybe. Because the date here is... Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so it begins with a quote. "Wherever you go, if you have a flexible attitude, you can help people quite easily." On December 31st, 1945, the temple was buzzing with enthusiastic preparation for the new year. Tori's family was back in Tokyo. Chie's mother, Kine Muramatsu, had moved in, and she, her daughter, and a group of Danka, that's the temple members, Danka wives, were making the best meal they could come up with. In the Buddha hall, cards were passed out for people to chant a chapter of the Prajnaparamita Sutra. All night mochi was pounded, sake was sipped, and songs were sung. All week long they had cleaned the temple and thrown away what was worn out and not of use. Miss Ransom's chair, that was his English teacher when he was in college in the 30s. Miss Ransom's chair, which the children had jumped on till it was beyond repair. I think it was rattan. Old newspapers, magazines, and some offensive wartime books. Let's see, December 31st, the war was over in August of 1945. So this is December 31st, 1945. Everybody's greatly relieved it's over, of course, with horror. And they're very short on food. But they're long in hope now, because the dark cloud has been lifted. It was a time to pay debts. With the help of the Danka, the family paid off what they could. They decorated and made offerings at the altar. This was New Year, celebrated as it hadn't been for a long time. Yeah, it wasn't just the warriors we think of in America, 41 to 45. It went on a long time there, the militarism and the dark cloud that hovered over Japan, and just terrible. Yeah, all right, enough of that. People were depressed from the war, but Shunryu felt this week of rejuvenation would help lift them up together. Now here we have a quote from him. We fool ourselves in some way and enjoy the last day of the year. This is based on the Buddhist way of understanding life. Moment after moment, we should renew our life. We should not stick to old ideas of what life is or what our way of life is. Especially at the end of the year, we should completely renew our feelings and completely clean even our cars. If we always stick to old ideas and always repeat the same thing over and over again, then we are confined in our old way of life. Some excitement or some occasion is necessary to encourage us along. All right, that was a little part on New Year's Day. That might be the last one. Here, I'm searching again. Yeah, no more. All right. I can say a couple more things about New Year's. I've been in temples during New Year's in Japan and in America. And in Japan, at Sogenji, Rinzai Temple, I live next door to, and where I sat and had a relationship with the abbot Shodo Harada. New Year's Eve, we'd hit the big bell. I guess it's called the Big Densho bell. I don't know. The big bell was a big bell, like maybe as tall as I am. And, it had its own bell tower. It was hit at midnight. It was hit maybe leading up to midnight. It was hit 108 times, and people would take turns. So neighbors would. I would have my hit. And, it would be like a minute between, or so it started. I don't know how. It was 30 seconds between hits. I don't know. And there'd be sitting. And I don't know when it started. But the next day was just unlike any day in the temple. Those people are pretty strict. And the abbot didn't drink. A lot of Japanese priests, in fact, it seems like most of them drink. Some of them drink a lot. And it's a problem, But Harada Roshi didn't drink. Every once in a while he'd call me, he'd say, hey, come here. And he'd give me a bottle of whiskey somebody had given him. He didn't want it. I might give it away too. I don't know. I didn't drink a lot those years. And because I was living with Elon and she wouldn't have let me. Oh yeah, the next day, the New Year's Day, the monks could drink. They could drink sake. So they'd buy all this sake, and the monks could do whatever they want. And they had a room set up with a television. They could watch videos and TV. They could just do anything they wanted on that day. That was fun. And at Zen Center, we've had, San Francisco Zen Center, we've had all-night sittings or limited sittings, and then sake in the morning. I've done that at Zen Center. And at Tatsara, we've had mochi pounding parties on New Year's. Now, there's hardly anyone at Tatsara at New Year's because it's the interim, and it's cold, and it's dark. It's dark during the day. It's a pretty narrow valley. But I've had some pretty neat times around New Year's and Buddhism. The 108 bells. I think that's what I think of. Anyway, that's enough. It's been a good year, and I'll keep putting up podcasts with guests. I don't think I'll go back to posting 6 days a week again. Having guests and posting that's something new, and I really appreciate talking to people, hearing what they have to say. I try to talk as little as possible, but I can only control myself so much. Hey, I think it's Carl Bernstein, or maybe it's Bob Woodward. The great journalist said, who broke the Watergate case, and he's been very important in recent years too. He said when he interviews people, he keeps his hands not showing, and he pinches his fingers to stop himself from saying things. And I tell you, it's really good. If the less I talk, the easier it is to go over the podcast. So I really try not to talk too much. So please forgive me when I do. Anyway, let me tell you what I'm going to do with this podcast. I am not going to go over it. I'm going to look for if there's any big spaces. I think I've only got one cough in it. And I said, excuse me. I'm not going to take anything out. I want to go to bed. I sort of took it easy today. I didn't get it ready. And, I had that nice not a breakfast, just 2 cups of tea. And, Katrina and I had a nice time. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens this year, 2003. I'll tell you one thing I'm really drawn to wanting to do. It bothers me not to do it. At certain times in my life, I have been drawn towards some sort of social expression. I had a little involvement with the civil rights movement. Nothing that was helpful to them, but it helped me evolve. I learned a lot. It was quite an education, SDS and all that. But, there were a lot of dedicated people who put, years or solid months of serious, dangerous work into that. I was more like somebody who passed through. I was in Mississippi like a month. But boy, it was a scary month, 1964. And I wrote about it. You can read about it on Gook.com. Just write freedom songs in the site search box. It's a 12-part series. My journey through 1964. I might make it into an audiobook, but I have to get around to that. I don't have time for that now. I put a lot of time into the nuclear freeze. I've done some stuff with environmentalism, save the earth sort of stuff. Gone to, marches against the war, and, I help people get out of the war and the Vietnam War and stuff. And the thing that has really gripped me most in recent times is climate change. Still, the threat of nuclear war, especially accidental nuclear war, is very, very high and is very, very great, and it's not in any way reduced. I mean, Reagan and Gorbachev made some serious improvements there. That was really important, and there, but you know, people just can't keep it in mind. You know, I might come back and read something Lou Richmond just wrote about it. He had a phrase for it. Why can't we, as you know, human beings, pay attention to these you know, species threatening, biosphere threatening threats, nuclear war and climate change. Nuclear war is, well, you know, we sort of think, well, I don't think it'll happen. It might happen. It might not happen. Climate change, that's not it. It is happening. And I sort of see it as a struggle between the forces trying to mitigate it, to stop it, to mitigate it, I think might mean to slow it down, reduce it, until you, sort of like the nuclear freeze, the idea, well, let's stop where we are and then reduce. So there's so many people aware of this, but it just seems like we're up against a steamroller. We're like, even, you know, right now I was reading the most important work in this field to deal with climate change is being made by billionaires, because governments can't change it, because, you know, people want their jobs and they want their stuff and they want their energy. The Ukrainians are making quite a and the Europeans are making quite a sacrifice, trying to stop Russia from, you know, taking over Ukraine. But mainly, we don't make that type of effort, that sort of all-out effort. And so it's like suicide. We're committing suicide. And, you know, I put out a record in 1982 or so. I've been working on the nuclear issue. And I sort of saw it. You know, it just seemed like, yeah, everybody agrees nuclear weapons they can't be used. They're dangerous. We shouldn't have them. But we couldn't stop it. We'd stopped it a little and they were reduced some. But it just seems to me the march keeps going. And it seemed like the human race had a very strong devotion to destroying itself. Now, you might say, well, they're not really trying to destroy themselves. There's other things happening that might destroy them that, you know, well, whatever. Anyway, climate change is like that. So I see it as a struggle between the forces of world suicide and the forces trying to stop world suicide. It's like a human being that struggling. Maybe they don't want to commit suicide, but they've got habits that are killing them and they can't stop. And that's more like that, you know. And so I'd like to put more time into that. I'd like, you know, I think I should do a podcast a week on that and call it, start a new thing, call it Doomer Radio. And, you know, and, you know, just have people on to talk about it. Maybe don't bring on experts. Everybody else is doing that. Just bring people on. But, you know, I don't want any, I don't want to get involved in people that say climate change isn't happening, really. We can go elsewhere for that. That's gotten way more press than it deserves, in my opinion. Okay, well, that's enough of all that. Hey, one other thing. Happy New Year. May you be happy, healthy, free from harm, loved life, and awaken. May you and yours, your friends and family, and may all beings have a happy New Year. All beings don't have years. May all beings be happy forever. Yeah. This has been a audio podcast. I'm DC, Poopa of Gook Audio and Gook Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Dogette Bandita. And I didn't mention, Feline Cuchita died last week, and we buried her in the garden. Farewell, Cuchita. Good cat. Guest dog Bambita. And dear lovely Katrinka, and we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.